All right, guys, welcome to the next live session. On today, we are going to talk about how to use functions, how to work with the functions, how to uh, use these functions in your upcoming programs. Okay, so for that, let me just create the topic session here. That is topic 11. Here we are going to see one topic today, that is functions. Okay, in this contest, we'll see what is a function first. What is a function? Oops. What is function? Okay, we need to answer this question, what is a function, before we actually get into this a lot of examples today. And what is a function? A function is one that contains a group of statements or a block of code to perform a certain task. Okay, the text is very simple here. The function is one that contains a group of statements or a block of code to perform a certain task. We'll see with examples why it is called, it is a block. Okay, assume that I want to repeat certain text again and again. So instead of writing, making your program more complex in writing thousands of lines, you can put any repeated task into a one block, and that block you can call it anytime. Okay, let me just give it an example. Assume that let's try to understand with this an example too, so that you can remember throughout this session. For example, when you go for a walk in the early morning, okay, what are the things you do generally? One is you'll get up from the bed. Second is you'll try to fresh up yourself, and you will get ready with your shoes, and you'll try to take other accessories as well, and you'll start walking. Assume that these are the steps. Okay, getting from the bed, freshing up yourself, taking all the accessories, and you'll start walking for the your your early morning walk. Okay, think of this sequence of steps to do a morning walk. Okay, think about these are the steps which are involved to take my first morning walk. Now, when one of your friend is asking, can you go for a walk today? Then you will not say again all these steps. Okay, I got up from the bed, I fresh up myself, I pick up all my accessories, I started walking. You'll not repeat all these steps. When your friend is asking, can we go for a morning walk? Get ready for the morning walk. What does it mean? You'll not say all this, you'll not repeat all these steps again. It's like making a function called a morning walk, okay, which involves all the steps involved. That means all these steps. What are the steps? Again, I repeat, getting up from the bed, that is my first step. Second step is freshing up myself. Third step is I'll pick up all the accessories, maybe shoes, my music system, and water bottle. Maybe I'll pick up all these accessories, then I'll start walking. These are my 4-5 steps which are involved for my early morning walk. If my friend is asking, let's go for a walk or let's get ready for a walk, I'll not tell him again, I'll do all these things. I'll simply start walking. So these steps are already put into a block which you'll be calling again and again, but will not repeat the statements. Okay, so these are the sequence of steps to do a morning walking, right? Now, the question is, why do we need a function in Python actually? Why do we need a function in Python? What generally happens is while writing a code, okay, while writing a coding or code, uh, the logic, what are the coding logic you're writing? For example, simple example, 10 plus 10, that is the logic, right? That is an expression. So when you're writing a coding in Python, what happens is instead of writing like a plain text, okay, the way we are writing so far, you're writing a simple like a plain text. It's a good to keep these coding statements in one separate block. Okay, instead of writing a plain text, what I'll do is I'll try to pick up the very important logic what I have, which I need to repeat every time in my program. I'll keep it separately as a block. And what I will do, whenever I require that, I'll simply call that function to perform my job. Very simple. So because whenever required, then we can call this, right? So because it's a separate blocks, there's a separate blocks. So whenever I want, I can call them. Okay, assume that there is no function called sum. I want to create a sum function. So wherever in my program, I need to do some calculation of what do you call adding 2 numbers or adding 5 numbers, I'll prepare a block of function separately, and I'll just call that function. I'll not do that logic again and again in my program. That is what the function is all about. So it's always it's good to define this statement in a separate block only. Why? Because of Python supports the functional programming, right? So we can use the functions. We're already using the functions actually. So whenever you let us try to understand more by doing it practically. Okay, now we understood what is a function. A function is one that contains a group of statements or a block of code to perform a certain task. Example is adding two numbers. To make it very simple, to understand at the initial stage what is function, before I go ahead with the other examples, just to add two numbers in my program, I have to add two numbers again and again. So I don't want to write again and again that code. What I'll do is I'll write it once as a function. I'll keep calling it that function whenever I require. So that is what the function is all about. We have seen a simple example, morning walk example, which gives a clear picture, right? Now the thing is, okay, I understood function. Now what is the advantage of using it? Okay, you already seen one is maintaining the code in an easy way, because you don't want to mess up writing some thousands of lines to perform your action. You can maintain the code in an easy way. And code reusability, that is what we are talking about, right? So the one thing what you can do is, the main advantage, maintaining the code is an easy way, right? The code can be maintained easy because I've written my actual program, and beside that there are functions which I've written. So whenever I want, I can call that function instead of putting that function also within my main program and making it very complex, right? The next advantage would be, as we've been discussing, that is reusability. The thing is, I created a function. The question is how many times I can call that function, right? How many times I can call that function? There is no limit, guys. There is no limit how many times you want to call that function. It's up to you how many times you want to call, because it's a code is reusable. You can keep calling as many times you want if your program requires it. Okay, so that is the basic fundamental of what is a function and why we need to use it and what are the advantages of it, right? So let's begin with the types of functions. We need to understand this before we go further with examples. We need to understand this, like types of functions, because I know there are already functions available. Then why you are talking about it? Let's see. Let's say the first type. Okay, there are two types of functions. One is a predefined functions, or you can say built-in functions. If you know what are the built-in functions, just put it in the chat box. Let me see what are the predefined functions which you already know, because the second topic is very important, user-defined functions, which you are going to talk about today. Okay, those who know what are the predefined functions, just keep it in the chat box and let me see what are the predefined available. Can somebody can explain in a chat box what are the predefined or built-in functions available, which we've been already using since week 1? Okay, this looks good. Okay, so what are the predefined functions? Okay, let me see. Somebody has set it. Okay, one is print, one is split, one is contact. Okay, now you're saying print is a function which is already there, which is called as a predefined. Now the question is, did I created my own? I mean, did I created that print function? No, it's not already available. The developers are already created for you. They already said by using this print function, you can print something. What about I want to take some information from the user? There is an input function then. I want to find whether it's a number, whether it's a string, whether it's a list, whether it's a tuple, dictionary, okay, whatever it may be. I want to find the data type. I have a function called type function. So these are all the predefined functions, guys. These are predefined functions. The function which comes installed, okay, installed along with your Python software. Okay, whether it's a, I'm not talking about which software, it's a GoLab, or whether you call it as Google Colab, or it is a Jupyter Notebook, or your Sublime, or your VS Code, or your Python default editor, whatever it may be. Okay, I'm not talking about which software. Any software, when you install, you will get some predefined built-in functions. So that means I'm not doing anything. Somebody is already created. I'm making use of it. That's it. I'm using a printer to print of something. I'm using input just to take the input from the user. Okay, it comes by default with your software, and these are also called as a predefined, or you can call it as a built-in. It's already there. That is what you mean as a built-in. So we have covered some of the inbuilt functions, as I said, in the previous sessions, right? So one is like a type is there, one is a input is there, one is a print, and so on. There are many. So in basically user-defined functions, what happens is the functions which are defined by the developer, okay, as per the requirement, are called a user-defined functions. Okay, user-defined functions. User-defined functions in the sense, uh, while I'm writing a program, I realized I need a function which is not existing in the Python itself. I want to create my own. Uh, there is a function called print which is helping me. There is a function called input which is helping me, but there is no such function called Monty. Okay, let's assume there is no such function existing in Monty. I want to create my own so that I can use in my program, which is not existing really. If I start using Monty as a function, it will not work because there's no such function existing in the Python. But what I want to do is I want to create my own function that is called as a user-defined functions. Who is user? It's you, me, and everyone. Everyone who is working on the Python are called as, okay, everyone who is working on the Python developers are called as users. Okay, and when you create a function, you can use it as many times possible. That is what you mean code reusability. Okay, and for me, it's very easy to code. Maintain also. Okay, it's not only just writing easy, but it's also easy to maintain. Now let's try to understand the way we always take the session. First, we want to understand this theoretically information about the topic. Then we'll talk about how the syntax looks like. Okay, that is very important. If you don't know the syntax, you cannot write any function, any conditional structure, any loops. So we need to know how the syntax looks like. So how the syntax looks like, let's put it here. The syntax. Okay, the syntax starts with def. Okay, what is def? What are we'll try to break it down into words and we'll try to understand this function. If I want to write if condition, I need to start with if, then condition, then colon, then you write the block of statement. If I want to write the loops, I need to start with while, then expression, then block of statements. Same goes with for loop. So that means I am following some structure here in order to write a program. In the same way, in order to write a function, we have some syntax. If you remember the 2 lines of syntax, you can write build as many as programs possible. Okay, being we understood what is the use of function. Okay, built-in functions, we already know there's nothing to do there. Just call them and use them. But whereas user-defined, you are creating your own and you're calling them. Okay, let's see how it works. Now, after the def, we need to mention the function name. What is the function name here, by the way? You can use it anything. You can use it anything. That's what we learned. Whenever you're talking about, whenever you're creating a variable name, whenever you're creating a function name, you can use anything. You can use anything. The only thing is we need to follow the golden rules. What are the golden rules? You should not start with the number. We should not start with the special characters. Uh, we should not use the spaces in the variable like first program. There is a space in between, so it's not a valid one. We have seen what are the valid variable names. So the same rules applicable for the function name also. You can give anything. If I'm giving any function name, it doesn't mean the same function name. Harin is a function name, Kabir is a function name, Monty is a function name, but it doesn't make any sense if I take the names. So whenever you're creating any function, try to use such name which you can easily identify them. For example, if I'm creating a function for sum, try to give sum as a function name. If you're using for a multiplication, let's say multiplication, which makes sense. But in place of multiplication, if I say Monty, nobody will understand what is Monty there, right? So try to give a function name variable in such a way, though it allows you to give any name, try to give such things which anybody can understand. Okay, that's the function name. Then open and closing brackets, we have open and closing brackets. So what I'm going to do with open and closing bracket here, we are going to mention the parameters. We are going to mention the parameters. Now, if I just say print open and closing bracket, it works. If I if I start writing print, let's take an example here. If I say print open and closing bracket, it still works. If I say input open and closing bracket, it still works. That means the parameter, what I'm allowing here, the first parameter says, please enter some string, like this is my first program. This is my parameter. And here, please enter your name, right? Please enter your name. This is your a parameter. Even if I don't enter, it will still work. It will still ask you the question, but I want the user to understand what I'm asking. Please enter your name, please enter your age, please enter your class, please enter your employee ID. You need to ask the question. Otherwise, if you just leave it blank, they will not understand what you're asking. If I say, it will still ask you a question, but I don't know what to enter here, right? That's a problem. That is a problem with if you're not passing the value. So in case of a parameter, it is optional. At the same time, you can also provide. We'll see with an examples. For now, just think that there is an open and closing bracket. Not to forget, we have something called colon. That is for sure. Okay, that is for sure. We have a colon. Now, what I'm going to specify here, body of statement, body of the function to perform any operation. Okay, any operation. So this is how it looks like. Of course, we have an indentation, which I'm not showing here. I'll show with an example. This is how the syntax looks like, and you're done. And there is some other line, which let me show you right now itself, return value. Okay, let me put if required. If required. Okay, again, it's an optional. We'll see with that example. So guys, we need to remember only these 3 lines of statement if you want to be the master of function, because Python supports functions. So your entire script, entire program, you can write in the form of functions, and you just keep calling them, and your program looks so simple. Within 2-3 lines of coding, you can complete the entire program instead of writing the entire logic in the main program itself. If you want to change any logic, you can go to the function and change it, so that when you're calling, it will work accordingly. All right. So that's the first step what you have taken. Second step we have taken, how to write the syntax of a function. Okay, having understood what is a function, uh, what is the use of a function, and what are the advantages of function, what are the types of a functions. Okay, types. Types of a functions, right? So this is what we understood, and this is your syntax. That's it. These are the 3 steps what you need to understand before we go ahead writing the program. Just take a quick pause and understand what I've written. I'll go through once again. What is a function? A function is one that contains a group of statements or a block of code to perform a certain task. Simple example. Again, I repeat the same example. Addition of 2 numbers. I don't want to use that logic in my program. Rather, I want to create a separate block of function which can add 2 numbers for me. Whenever I require in my program, I'll call that function so that my job can be easy. And the 2 benefits what you have seen is maintaining the code is an easy way, and code reusability. The type of functions are predefined functions or built-in functions. Okay, what do you mean by predefined or built-in? Predefined means it's already there. There's nothing to do. Just call the print function, and whatever the parameters you want to write it and make use of it. You're not doing a great job there. It's already there, predefined or built-in. But what exactly the challenging here is when you want to create your own function. Okay, you're creating for the first time your own function, which can be utilized throughout your program. So let's see. You have seen how to see what do you call? We have seen the syntax basically. Okay, it's showing different way here. Let me put this way. Let me take the syntax in the next line. Okay, I'll take the syntax in the next line so that you can understand. Yeah. Now for that, I need to make this as comments, otherwise it will throw an error, right? So this is your syntax. All right, guys, we understood the syntax. Now let's begin with an example. But again, as I mentioned, let's try to make this syntax, break it down into bits and pieces and try to understand. What is def? You are using a word called def. Is it mandatory? Of course, it's a mandatory. And what is def stands for? It's a keyword. Def is a keyword. You might have seen in the keyword list, def is also there. Def is a keyword. Okay, let me write here just for your identification. Def, okay, it's very case sensitive, lowercase. Def is a keyword, and then every function in Python should start with a keyword called def. Otherwise, it will not considered to be a function. In other words, Python can understand the code as a part of function if it contains the def keyword only. That means if you're writing a big program, you have created a function, big function, and everything is fine, but you have not used the start word to begin with, def, then it will not be considered as a function itself. Okay. The second one is name of the function. Name of the function. As I mentioned, name of the function can be anything, right? Name of the function can be anything, but please ensure the name which you are taking should be apt for your program, not Monty, Harini, Kabir, Tej or something. Okay, take something which is really makes sense for your program. Okay, the name of the function. Again, you need to follow the same rules. What we have the rules for the variables which we have seen. You should not start with the numbers or something like we have set on golden rules, right? If you're not crossing the rules, that if you're following that golden rules, that means you're good to go to give the function name. Okay. And the third one is parenthesis. Okay. What we have is parameters. You can, oh, let's say parenthesis. What is parenthesis? This open and close bracket. These are called as a parenthesis. So do we require a parenthesis mandatory again? Yes. After the name of the function, what of the function name you wish, you have to open and closing bracket, even if you're not providing anything in that. Even if you're not providing any parameter, it is mandatory to provide a parenthesis, open and closing bracket. We have to mention that is what a, these are called a parenthesis, right? These are called a parenthesis. This is a name. It's a keyword. Def is a keyword, which is nothing but defining a function. Okay, defining a function. Okay, def is nothing but defining a function. Name of the function is nothing but name. Parenthesis is nothing but open and closing bracket. Now, what we left with the syntax is quite easy, right? Body of the function to perform any operation. I don't know what I want to perform. Do you want to perform adding a two numbers or multiplication or subtraction or division? That is what your function to perform any operation. What you want to perform? You want to find which student got a which grade or which employee got highest sales this year or this month. Like you want to find some kind of a logic you want to perform and you want to give the end result. That is what your body of the function to perform any operation. Okay. And colon, without forgetting, we need to use a colon makes very important because that allows you to write in the indent form. If you don't find the indents, that is what you have seen with the if condition. Okay, when you have said if expression colon, it will come and stand by leaving 4 spaces. That is called the indent. Indent means 4 spaces. It will start the coding from there. That means that relates to that block of statement, whether it's a if condition, whether it's a function which you're going to write now. Okay, so very important, we need to mention that symbol. Symbol is nothing but looks like this, right? So colon symbol, it's a mandatory again. Now what next? We have something called body. Body, what you want to write in the body, all the code that does some operation, guys, any operation should go into the body of the function. The body of the function should have indentation. If you don't have the indentation, when I write the example, you'll understand. If you don't have the indentation, then it will not be considered the part of that function. So you need to ensure that the body, what you're writing, the statement should be writings with indentation. Then only it will be considered that's a part of the statement. That finally we have something called written. Don't worry about what is written now. Once you understand the basic example, we can go for the written. Written, we can say statement. Written statement basically should be in the body of the function, of course, because if you look at here, the def started here, then it started with the body, then written is coming at the later stage, right? That's a final line of statement what you're writing. Even if you're not writing in initial cases, doesn't matter. We'll go slowly. Understanding what is the written statement does. Written statement should be in the body. That is the first golden rule. It's not mandatory to have a written statement. Again, it's not written, but if you have it written, what happens in the function, how it is going to enhance your function with more readability, we'll see that in the upcoming examples. Okay, so guys, now that by just let's try to visualize, I created a function now. Now when you create a function, it will not work directly. Okay, somebody has Python developer has created print function. Will it work directly? No, you need to call the print function. Until unless when you don't say print, what do you want to print? You want to print this is something. Okay, if you don't call that function, function will not work. So that's why whenever you, even in the user defined, what happens is when you create a function, you need to call it. So if you want to call it, you need to remember the name of the function. So that's why it becomes very important to name the function very app to your program. Okay, now let's try let's try to see how to define a function and how to call a function. From creating a function to using it is there are only two things, right? So one is defining it, which I know how to define, but I don't know how to call it. We'll see how to call it, but how to define it. So I'm going with the first example, how to define a function. Then we'll slowly improve the example with how to call a function. Then we'll slowly improve with what is this parameter is all about. Then we'll also see what is a written statement will do in this my entire program of function. Okay. So let's see what is the first example we are going to see. I want to create a function. Okay, create a function. How to create a function, I know very well now, because looking at the syntax, I can understand. If I say DEF, no, it's not understanding. If I say DEF, no, it's not understanding. So I need to provide in only lowercase, because keywords are always in lowercase, right? What are those three keywords which are in upper, starting letter is uppercase? Only three, if you remember in the keyword list. True. Okay, we have something called false, right? So there are certain keywords, only three keywords which have uppercase starting letter, but the rest of all are in lowercase only. So I'm starting with the def. Now what I want to do, can I say Monty here? Why not? You can, but ensure that is it really make sense by giving a Monty as a function name? It doesn't make any sense. Even if I want to call tomorrow, what does Monty mean? I don't know. So try to give such a name which you can easily identify. Let's say I want to say this display. Okay, okay, I want to display some message, so I'm saying display. uh, you can give anything, as you know, but I want to give a function name. Let's say one underscore Monty. Okay, my own function, so I want to give my own, I want to prefix my name. Doesn't matter even if a prefix or not, it's prefix, or if you are giving later, doesn't matter. Open and closing parents. Okay, when I say enter, again I did a mistake here. If you are not closing your line of statement of function or your conditional structure with the colon, it will not allow you to write in the indent form. So what I need to do is enter. Okay, it's saying the indent form started. Now here I want to say print welcome to Monty's Python. So what it is doing, it is a display Monty function which I've created, guys. If you understand this is a very simple basic example, then every example will be very easy for you to understand. Here I created a function called display Monty. Now let me run and see what happens. When I run this, nothing is happening. Why? Because you have created a function, but you're not calling it, right? You have to call it. You are calling the print function, you're calling the input function, you're calling the type function. You need to call it, tell the job, then only it will does the job for you. Now let's see how to call a function. Okay, creating a function you have seen. You have seen how to create a function. Now let's see the next example, how to call it. If you don't call it, it will not make any sense. Okay, so let me just remove this, the same one. Now here I want to call the function. If you want to call the function, if you want to call the function, what is the syntax? There's no syntax actually. It's very simple. The way you are calling print, that's a function you are calling. That's it, right? If you want to call the input, you are calling input. If you are calling type, you are saying type. That's how you're calling the built-in functions, guys. I repeat again, built-in functions, predefined functions. So is there any difference? No difference. You need to simply say display, okay, Monty, close it. Okay, display Monty, I'm calling a function. I'm not passing any parameter here, because when I say run, will it show you the output? I think I need to restart my kernel again. Let me see if that is the problem. Always I just try to check with 10 plus 10 if it is working or not. Just enter. No, it's not working. So the problem is I need to restart it. So let me clear the outputs and run it, and just wait for a few seconds. Your Jupyter notebook will be ready. So if you want to cross check again, say enter. Okay, it's working, right? So it's working. So what I want to do is here, I want to see, I want to call that function. Calling a function is very, very important. So in this example, in the first example, rather like 154 example, what you have seen is how to create a function. We define the function with a name called display underscore Monty with a print statement. But now when we execute this first example, we will not see any output, right? We will not see any output. When I'm running it, it's not showing me anything, right? It will not show any output because the function is not yet called. Okay, its function is not yet called. Hence, the function calling is also very important along with the function definition. After defining a function, we need to call it. We need to execute the function. So when calling the function, we have to call with the same name. Why it is called as the same name? Of course, this is what the display Monty is my name of function. So you need to call with the same thing. When I say enter, what it does, okay, welcome to Monty's Python. Where I've written, actually, I've not written in display Monty. I've written in the function. And what is the name of the function? It is display Monty. If I write something called display one Monty, which is not really existing, and you're going to see an error, name display underscore Monty is not defined. Of course, it's not defined. Hope you understood. Just show your acceptance in the chat if you understood how to define a function, how to call it, so that we can see some more examples and we'll try to deep dive into the functions, because this is a start one to understand with. Okay, now the question is, that's what I was saying, like how many times I can call. There's no limit. Actually, I'm calling throughout my program. I'm calling as many times possible, and you'll see the output will be created that many times throughout my program. Wherever I want, I'll be calling it. So this is how call the function, or calling the function. Okay, basic example. We are going to use the same style, though I'll not change the style of the function also, because I need to follow the ground rules, right? So display Monty, display everywhere, wherever I want to print something, this is how I'm going to print. So I can see in the chat box, yes, Monty understood. All right, so let's go for the next one. Okay, one thing you need to remember, guys, here, when a function is called once, then it is will execute once. Okay, if you are calling it twice, it will execute twice. If you're calling 100 times, it will display the output 100 times. No wonder, right? That's what the function is all about. Okay, now when you are creating a function, the name of the function plays a very important role, as we understood with an error, right? If I say display underscore Monty1, it's not working because that function is not existing anywhere. Now, let's go with the next example, how to use the functions with parameters. Okay, I'm talking about parameters, right? So what is parameter? Let's go back and check my syntax so that I can quickly remember. Now, let me go back with the syntax and understand this example word. Def, I use the keyword def. I need to use the function name. I use the function name. I need to use the parameter. I use the parameters. I need to use the colon, which is a I need to use the colon, which is a mandatory. Yes, I used. I need to use the body. In the body, I'm not doing any calculation, just printing out. We'll go with some more examples, but just printing out to understand the function. Return statement, being it's an optional, I'm not using anywhere, but I'll slowly try to use it once we are familiarized with how to create the function, how to call it. So we have seen, if you're calling once, it will execute once. If you're calling 100 times, it will execute 100 times. As simple as logic. There's no magic in this. It's very simple. Now the functions with the parameters in Python. Let's try to see the functions. I mean, how to use the parameters, because I have not used any parameters here. If you want to use the parameters, let's take. Okay, this is. Okay, so before we actually start using this parameter, we need to understand what does a parameter mean. As I mentioned in the previous example, if you use a print without any parameter, that is, you're not putting any text in the print command, but still it works because it's an optional. But in some cases, it becomes mandatory. It becomes mandatory. If you don't provide that parameter, it will not work. So we can make a parameter mandatory. We can also make parameter optional. Example, print command. Example, input command. Even if you don't provide anything, it will still work, right? So a function that has no parameter function definition is called as a function, right? So without a parameter, this now if you need to understand the parameter, just go back to the previous example and see how the parameter is given. Okay, what parameter we'll see later, but how the parameter is given. This is how the parameter is given. Now let's see an example here, how to use the parameter and start working on. Now the example what I was repeating to make better understanding, I'm using sum. Okay, sum is a function which I want to create my own function. There's no function in Python, let's assume. Now I want to create my own function. So wherever I want to add two numbers, I can just call this function. Okay, now you'll have that impression, okay, I'm using sum, so that's why it's working. So let me say sum underscore Monty, my own function, guys. This is my own function. So I need to open and closing brackets and colon. Now, being I said, I want to use parameters here so that whenever the user is entering some parameters, then it will work. So that means if I say, I need to provide the parameters, right? So let's say a comma b, let's assume two parameters are provided. Okay, a is a parameter, b is a parameter. Once I say enter, what happens is you need to print, you want to print something like sum of two numbers are, okay, sum of the two numbers are, what is that? You need to say a plus b. Now, if you look at very closely this function, nowhere I'm using the numbers. It's completely dynamic. I'm not using 10 plus 20, 30 plus 40. I'm not using any numbers, guys. So here what happens is the function, if you run again, it will not work. It will never work because function will not return anything unless until when you call it. So how to call it? Now let's call the function now. To call the function, take a one step back, because if you are in within the block, it will not work. You need to call separately. So call, okay, calling the function. In other programming language, we need to use call as a defined keyword to call something, but here there's nothing to use any prefix. Now, if I say sum underscore Monty, which is my function, which I open and closing brackets, when I run it, it will throw an error. Why? Now, if you look at the clear error, which I myself created my own function, it's saying sum underscore Monty missing two required positional arguments, A and B have not provided. Can you please provide the parameters? In the previous example, I was not getting any error because I've not used any parameters here. If you are not using any parameters, you can call it directly without any parameters, right? But here, when you set A and B, it becomes mandatory for the user to enter something. What to something? That, like I said, 100 and 200. Now, when I say sum underscore Monty, it is going to really do the job for you. But how? Just hold on this. So how it is working? 100 plus 200 is 300, right? 100 comma 200 is not 300. What happens is when you execute this function will go and check this sum Monty and check what are the parameters A and B. Okay, A plus B. This is what the body of the statement operation you have provided. That's how this A is 100, B is 200. Though you are providing a comma here, it is adding up two numbers here. Adding up two numbers. Same way, you can go for anything. You can go for anything. Like let's say you want to go for multiplication. Now here I can't use sum, right? You need to say MUL something, your own logic. You want to say multiplication. You want to say A multiplied B. Okay. Going with the simple examples to get the hang of functions. Okay, multiplication of two members. Now, if I run this, it will not give the output. It's still working the previous functions because you called the functions, right? So it's saying sum underscore Monty is that function. Now, if I use the same sum instead of sum, if I use MUL, which is again wrong because M is caps, right? When I run this, you can see two functions are working simultaneously. Sum of two numbers are 300, multiplication of two numbers are so and so. So that means the function is created with the two parameters, A comma B, and multiplication of these two numbers are this. So I'm calling the function, I'm making use of it. Assume that you want this program to be written many times. No, I'll not write anymore. Why? I created only once. I can call it as many times as possible, as many times as possible. Call it anywhere. Call it anywhere in your entire program. This will work, right? This will still work because that is advantage of the functions, right? Reusability. You can use as many times as possible There's nothing wrong with it because the function is already created for me. The way you are using print function, you use 1,000 times, it will never. There's no limitation for the sum print command or the input command. The same way, user-defined function, my own function. I'm not using sum. Wanted, I'm using sum underscore Monty. You can understand that means you can give any name there. Now you created own function, guys. Okay. Now let's see. Uh, you can also use function like, for example, I don't have any function in Python which can tell me whether given number is even or odd. Okay, why can't we have our own function so that whenever I call the function, it will just tell me very quickly whether it's a even, whether it's a odd. I don't know. I want to create the function first, right? I need to create that function so that it can be used. Now let me go for the next level of example, but because you have seen simple example, then you have just moved using the parameters. Very importantly, you have seen how to call it. If you don't call it, it will not work, right? You need to call it. Okay. Now, the next example is how to check. Okay, let me write the challenge here. Check number is even or odd. Okay, we guys know what is even and odd. There's no need to explain. So let's try to begin with a simple example again. Okay, I want to. How do you check if a number is even or odd? Some number, any number which is divisible by 2, it is even, right? Like if it is equal to 0, then it's even. We have seen one example in previously. The same logic I'm trying to use. What I'm trying to do here is I want to use the operators here, maybe arithmetic, whatever the operators I want to use. I want to use the print function. I want to use the conditional structure. I want to use the function also. I'm trying to club everything here so that you can see a combination. Okay. What I want to do is first I want to define a function. Okay. Monty, check even or odd. My own function, guys. My own function, I can create the way I want, right? My own function. So whenever you create a function, it's not mandatory to provide the parameters, but your program requires you want somebody to provide the input, then you can calculate it the way I've done in the previous example, because you want somebody's asking a question, what is 10 plus 20? So with your function, you're able to give the answer. So that means it becomes a mandatory to give the parameters there. But if you want to greet somebody just like that, hello, how are you? There's no need of, for example, in the previous example, I just called for what? Just to display. There's no logic in this. Just I called. Okay, I'm not doing anything dynamic here. Always it will print welcome to Monty's Python. Even if you want to print something else, no, it will not print. It will print the same thing because it's not dynamic. Now I'm moving to a next level of dynamic using the conditional structure and as well as using some operators here. Let's try to see. So I said Monty check even or odd. That is my function name, guys. You can give anything. You can give anything. Here I need to provide some number because you are expecting the user will provide 10. Please tell me 10 is even or odd. That's a question the user have. In that case, you need to create such a function which can really do that logical operation in your function and give the results. Let's see. I want to give some parameter called anything, num for that matter. Enter. Again, the same mistake. You use the colon here, then only you'll come to that indentation. Don't try to use your manual spaces. Now here, what I want to do is if num, okay, what does it mean? It is trying to check whether it is divisible by 2 or not. If it is equals to 0, okay, if it is equals to, again, I need to, okay, if it is double equal to, we know that, okay, double equal to is considered as a equal to. If it is equal to, whatever you divide any number with 2, which is equal to 0, then it's going to be even, else it is what? It is going to be an odd number. Once I say enter, it's asking me print. I'm saying num is nothing but the parameter what you provided. Then I'm saying is even. It's an even number. I want to write something here because so that I can respond to the user, right? Now, once I say enter, it's coming and stopping there only, but I want to come out of that block. If condition is over, I want to go to the else part. So go backspace and say else colon enter. Again, you type the same message with a different option. Here, you are not going to say even, you are going to say odd. Why you are using this if condition here? Because based on condition, if the number is divisible by 2, then only it becomes even. If it is not divisible by 2, then it cannot be even. It's going to be a odd number. That's it. Now my function is ready. So simple. Okay. I use my if condition learning, what I've learned. I'm trying to use in the num function. When I run it, obviously it will not run. No, what I need to run this, I need the function name, call it. How to call the function? Just use the same name. If you're using a slight change of cases also, it will not work. So it's asking me the parameter. Here I'm going to call the function, say calling the function. I'm writing just comments for you. Calling the function. So what I want to say here, 10. Now the question is 10 is divisible or not? I don't know. My function is going to help me now. I don't know how to calculate, how to see whether it's 10 is divisible 2 or not. I don't know. What happens is when you give the 10 here, try to go with in detail 10, it will go to this function and check this 10 is nothing but num. Num will check whether it's divisible 2 or not. If it's equal to 0, it will give the even, else it gives the odd. Let's try to see this. Okay, I'm just giving 10. Now it should say 10 is even number, 10 is an odd number. That's what the message I want to see as an output. That's why I've given in the num is a variable name. And beside that, I've given a message called is even number, is odd number. Try to give always the end user with a proper message so that he can understand what's going on. Once I say enter, it's saying 10 is an even number. Okay. What about the 11? 11 is an even or odd number. Let me check. Now that means it's saying 11 is an odd number. So why instantly it's saying when you give the 11 odd number, because it's trying to check in the condition, is it divisible with 0? No, that's why it's coming to the else part and printing this. Is it divisible with 2? Yes, then it will print the statement. So based on the condition, it is working. Now you made the function in such a way based on the condition. In the previous example, there's no such condition. You provide two numbers, I'll tell you what it is. You just provide the two numbers. I'll add for you and I'll give you. Just give the two numbers. I'll multiply it and give you. That's a simple, pretty straightforward. But here, you give the number, I'll tell you what it is, whether it's an even number, whether it is an odd number. $157, I've written twice. 155, 156, 157, 158. Okay, thank you. So 158, 159. All right, guys, this is how we could able to crack a challenge, how to check a number is even or odd. Okay, let me, as you know, like you can call as many times possible, right? You call as many times possible and try to give some 100 here, let's say 103 here, some 536, 540. I don't know what the numbers, just say enter and let me see the answer, because I don't know what are those numbers. Let my function tell me whether 540 is an even number. Yes, exactly. 536 is an even number. Yes, exactly. 103 is an odd number. Yes. 100 is an even number. Perfectly working without any issue. Why? My if condition is working excellent. My if condition is working. See, I'm working on functions, but I started using what I learned in the previous weeks. That is how to use the if condition. We can also use the loops, but let's familiarize with the function first. Once the function is clear, then you can put all those logics what you have learned so far. Now let's use the optional one, that is the written keyword, right? Written keyword we have not seen. Written keyword in the sense, let me go back to my syntax first, so that let me not get confused. It starts with the def, it starts with a function, it starts with the parameters. Perfect. I understood this line. What is the body of the statement? What expression you want to give? What logic you want to apply? You have seen how to use the if condition. You have seen how to simply print output. You have seen how to add two numbers, how to multiply it. Okay. That is your body of statement. Now, written value is optional. If required, only use it, otherwise no. But let's try to see and familiarize what is written keyword and written statement rather, and how it is going to enhance my code. As mentioned above, the written statement is completely optional and includes in the body statement only. It includes in the body statement. Let me write that. Okay, it includes in body statement. Okay, only in the body statement and optional. It's not mandatory, but let's try to learn why to use this and what is the advantage if I use it. So I'm going to the next example to see how to use the keyword called statement called 160, let's say written statement. Okay, I can write the example and show you how it works, but before that, again, let's try to understand what is this. We know 2 points here. It's an optional. It should include in the body of statement. Very good. So in any, okay, in especially in Python programming language, written is a keyword. Okay, written is a keyword in a Python programming language. By using this return, we can return the result. We can return the result to that parameters what you provided. I'll show you an example. And it is not mandatory, as I mentioned. And if there is no return statement in the function, still it works, because by default it returns none. Okay, by default, because in my previous examples I'm not used return, but still it's working, right? But let's see an example now. Okay, now what is a syntax for it? As usual, def function name and parameters, body of function, then return the result. Okay, let me take an example here. I'll take the same example, sum. Okay, sum m, something like that. I don't know what is that name mean. I can give anything. Just to give you that confidence, you can give anything. Okay, you can give anything there. I said a comma b, which are my parameters. Once I say enter, okay, now I want to do certain calculation. A equal to a plus b. Now I want to return c here. I want to return c. Okay, I'm not getting in colored. Spelling is wrong. R-E-T-U-R-N. Okay, return c. Now what I'm trying to do here, this return keyword is trying to return what is c. C holds what? A plus b. What is a? I don't know, because when you're calling this function, user will tell what is a. If he's saying 100, okay, I'll calculate a plus b as a 100 plus 200, whatever the numbers he provides. Now you can also assign this function what you have created, your own function, that is sum underscore m, to a variable. What is x? X is my own variable, my user defined variable. I can give anything there. Now I want to say some numbers here. Let's say 100 comma 300. So as using this function, that is sum underscore m, with two parameters, that is a means 100, b means 300, which I'm assigning to a variable called x. We can also pass this function to a variable so that you can later on, if you want to print that function, you can use it. Like let's say, let's see with an example. I want to print it. Print, I want to say sum of two numbers is comma x. What is x? Actually, if you look at, a is 100, b is 200. That is going and storing in a variable called c, which becomes 300. That 300, you are again storing in a variable called x, and you are printing that x here. If you don't have written c, how you going to do it? Just look at your previous example. This is how you're going to do it. This is how you're going to do it. That is the first example you have seen, but I'm trying to write in a different fashion now by using a written value. So let's see. I'm using a x here. I'm removing that ash. Okay, that's it. Now let's try to run and see what happens. It's a function. Do I need to call it? Or yes or no? Can I call this function or not? Somebody comment on the chat box saying, do I need to call this function? Or it works automatically because there is a written value here. Put it in the chat box. Do I need to call this function? My function name is sum m. Sum m. Do I need to call somewhere else like this? 100 and 200 are not required, because this shows your level of understanding with the examples what we provided. So I got a one answer here. No. Uday says it's not really required to call it. But okay, if somebody says yes, let's see. Now let me run this example. Oh, I got that sum of two numbers. Spelling is wrong. I got the sum of two numbers. I got the sum of two numbers as 400. But how? Did I call my function? No, because the written keyword or written statement is written in that C and already calculating that a plus b, and a plus that sum function you're assigning to another variable called x in this place. Okay, this is a place where you're assigning. So within the function, how to return the value, that is using the print command. Of course, print is always required, guys. Print, you want to print something, the output, then we need it. Okay, so we have seen how to use a function to return the value, that is, which is quite optional. If you use it, it's fine. If you don't use it, also still it holds good. Okay, now same example what you have seen in the beginning to see how your written works. Again, I want to show you. That is the first example what you have seen. Welcome to Monty's Python. Okay, I said def fun1. What is fun1? I don't know. It is a function name. You can give anything there. Now I'm just putting a colon. Again, I'm going back to the basic example. Simprint. Let's say this function is returning nothing. Yeah, of course, returning nothing. There is no return C here. Because if I want to call this function, what I need to do is fun1. It's returning nothing. When I say run, it's working. Because if you see here, I'm not using any return. But if I use the parameter, okay, let's say x equal to fun1, okay, open and closing brackets, because there's no parameters here, right? So now what I want to do, print x. So there's no need to call the function now. There's no need to call the function. Okay, function calling, we can do two ways, like fun1 directly it works. Also, we can assign that by providing the parameters here, which I don't have here. In the previous example, you've seen with parameters. This is a without parameters. When I say enter, oh yeah, so this is not xx, it is only x. Okay, now you see here, when I don't use the return statement, I go back to my statement, what I mentioned. If there is no written keyword in your entire function, what happens? Okay, if there is no written function in the statement in the function body, then the function by default returns none. It is already returning none here. Okay, it's by default is already working, but if you specifically mention written what, then it will avoid giving you none, rather it will give you the exact result what you want. Okay, so let me go with one more example just to prove the point how to avoid this none here. 162. Let's say function returning the value. Okay, function returning the value. So here what I want to do is def sum a underscore a comma b. Then I want to use c equal to a plus b. It's not working. Why? Again, same mistake. Enter a equal to c equal to a plus b. Then I want to return c. Then I want to use some variables where I can mention that some, let's say 1 comma 2 maybe. Okay, then I want to print it sum of two numbers. Okay, I can copy. Actually, we have done with this example, but yeah. Now, once I run this, what is happening? What is error? int. Where is int? Where I've done the mistake? Sum a, sum, okay, sum underscore a. The function name is wrong. The sum of the two numbers is 3, quite easy. Here, if you, the only difference you need to understand here, I'm not using the return key. If you don't use the return key, by default, it will assume it's a none, right? If you use a return C, nothing but you're giving back the result. Return is giving back the result. So you're assigning that to X and printing out, you can see straight away you got the answer. Straight away you got the answer, but it's not giving you an output called none there. Okay, now this is how it works. This is how it works. That is the return statement. Let's take one more example before we actually go for the short break. There's a 163 example here. What I want to do is function returning the values. Of course, it's returning the value. Returning the values, but can it return multiple values? Let's see. Return. Return the multiple values. Okay, so here what you are trying to do is you want to return multiple values. So far you have seen just returning only c. C is nothing but which is having a variables of a plus c. That is how it's working. But here we want to return two multiple values. So let's say a comma b, the same example. Here I want to say sum b because already sum e has been taken. So let's not take the same name again. You need to take differently. All right, so printing the two numbers, that is def. Okay, we have taken c equal to a plus b. Now what I want to do is, being it's how to call the function return, which prints a multiple values. So what we can do is d equal to, let's say, a minus b. Okay, I'm trying to do two different things here. Now I want to say c comma d. That means so far you have seen return a, return b, return c something, but here you are trying to return two different values. That is defining a function that can return multiple values. Okay, so now what I need to do, if I run this way, it will not work because you have said X. Okay, there's no X here in this example. Now you need to say, as you are returning a C and D, we need to use two variables. Let's say X and Y. Okay, X and Y is two variables, which is trying to return, this is not A, this is B, right? So 1 and 2, or let me take some bigger numbers, or 20, doesn't matter. Then what I want to do is, I want to print sum of A and B is, or sum of two numbers is X. Okay, that is one. And you want to print the second returning value, subtraction of two numbers, that is Y. Now let's try to understand more about this example. In this example, what I'm trying to do is, I have defined a function, but I want to see if it can return multiple values. I want to see if it can return multiple values. That is, created def. Okay, function name is sum b, and I've provided two parameters, that is a and b. A and b I'm storing in a variable called c, and a minus b I'm storing in a variable called d. This I'm returning C and D. Just compare with the previous example. I'm not doing much additional thing here. Just added one more parameter. Likewise, if you understood, like, you can add 10 parameters. That's the simplest way. X comma Y sum underscore B 10, 20. So when I run is, it is returning multiple values. Is it true? Sum of two numbers is 30 because 10 and 20. Subtraction of two numbers, that is minus 10 because 10 minus 20 is minus 10. That's how it works. That is returning multiple values. Now we want to see if the function can call another function in the next, after this break. All right, we have seen the basic example of defining a function, how to call a function, and then slowly we have moved how to use the parameters in the function. Okay. While using the parameters, we also seen how to use the return, which is, again, I repeat, it is an optional one. And once you create any function, you can call as many times as possible, but make sure whatever the function name you have created, it should be the same when you're calling it. Okay. Otherwise, it will throw an error because it's not different, right? When it is not available, definitely will throw an error saying that it's not available. And we have seen how to use the return C, nothing but return C is nothing but any variable. Okay, returning the value. And we have seen how to assign a function which you have created by your own to another variable called X, which you have seen here. X could be anything again. And here it is not returning anything because I have no parameters. We have seen with the parameters, this is quite more advanced, I can say, where we are trying to use multiple values. Okay, if you know how to use multiple values, you can add as many as you want. We'll see one more example with this corresponding to this so that you can have a better understanding. Now let's see one more example, how to maybe one function can call another function. Okay, the question is, I know how to create a function now. I'll also create one more function. I'll create one more function. I'll create 100 functions. The thing is, can one function can call another function? That's a question here. Okay, so to see that example, let's create a def. I say one is my function name. Okay, then I'll say print something. Okay, again, mistake here. I need to use colon. Print, let's say, first function, okay, which I've created. Then I want to come out of this. If you want to come out of this, you need to say enter, then take a backspace. If you write something here, it will think that you are still the part of the function. No, I'm not part of the function. I want to come out of it. So this is a second function. Let's say second, and open and coding classes. That's enter colon. Then here I want to say print the function as second function. So what I want to prove the point here, can we call a function by another function? So we have two functions here, guys. So very simple one. I created def1, def2, both are the functions. I've written message also very clearly so that I can differentiate it. Now what I want to do is, I want to call the function that is one. Okay, then I want to use the second function called second. Now the one is a function which is calling another function called second. Okay, we defined two functions here. I repeat, function one, that is one, Function 2 is second. In function 2, we are calling the function 1. Okay. In the function 2, we are calling the function 1. So finally, we are calling only the second function, not the first function. Okay. And which is internally calls the first function. Now let's try to see how it works. When you see the output, you'll understand. When I run this, what it is trying to give you, it is first giving the second function. That means the second function, okay, printing the second function as a text, and it is calling the first function. So one function can call another function without any issue. So that means if you have a number of functions which you have created and they are interrelated, obviously we need to call one function by calling another function. This is how you are going to call it. Okay. You have seen the example how to assign a function to a variable also. We have seen the passing a function as a parameter to another function. Let's see, this is a little different. Okay. Whatever the parameter you are passing here, you want to call that with a second function. Let's see. Here, what I want to do is I'll create again the two functions. I'll create two functions again. I'll say def, let's say display. Okay. And I want to give the colon here. I want to give some variable called x. Here we can say this is display function. Okay, this is a display function which is going to display something. Okay, that is the text what you have written. Now I want to create one more function, that is def, let's say ms message as one more function colon, and here I don't have any parameter. Okay, let's try to differentiate now. I have one function which says x as a parameter. The second function doesn't have anything. Now let's see how we are going to use that. Now for that, again, of course, I need to have the print statement here. Print this is message function. All right, we have two functions here, quite easy the way we have done previously, but here the change is I have one parameter for the first function, the second function doesn't have. Maybe the third function again have a parameter. So how we are going to make use of passing that function as a parameter to another function. Okay, to the another function. Now how we are going to call it? Now let me write here calling function. Okay, now what I want to say is display is my first function which has a parameter. Within that, I want to call my message as function, which is going to take that value. Okay, the value which is already there in the. Now I'm going to say two messages because I'm able to work. Ideally, when I say message, it should print this is my message. But what is happening here? The message doesn't have parameter, but it is taking the value from display. So that is what we have seen. Display, what I'm doing here, message as one more function name, that is the function name, which has a parameter which I'm taking into a display. So this is a message function, this is a display function. So this is quite easy to pass a function as a parameter to another function. So message is nowhere responsible having a parameter, but still it is able to print out what is there in the X, that is display function. Okay, we can also define a function within the function. Okay, we have seen how to call a function from another function. Now this example will demonstrate how to function inside another function. What you call generally the terminology, we call it as a nested function, right? So we'll call it as nested function. Let's say function inside another function. Okay, function inside another function. So nothing but a nested. We have seen example with the if conditions. We have seen the examples with the loops, how to use a loop within the loop, function if condition within the if condition. Now it's time to understand how to use the function within the function. Now, as usual, we'll start with the def. Okay, I'll say first, just like that. I'll say print something. Okay, again, the mistake, colon is important here. Colon is important here. Once I say this print, I want to say this is outer function, or let's say outer function first. Okay, once I say enter, I'm getting again the breakpoint. I mean the indentation I'm getting stopped here. So I want to declare one more, create a one more function called second. Okay, I want to create one more function called second. I want to print the statement print. Let me not write so many times. Yeah, this is inner function. Okay, this is an inner function, right? This is sitting inside the main function called first. and this is not first, this is second. This is only for our understanding what I'm writing in the. So now if you can see very clearly, I've not written this example previously. We started with the simple def. Okay. And we also seen how to call a function to another function. We also seen how to call a function which has a parameter and another function which doesn't have. And this example will demonstrate you how to use a function inside another function, nothing but a nested function we can see, right? Now, how to call this? I need to come back to my normal. I need to come out of this indentation. Then I need to call the function, calling outer function. Now, what is outer function? This is your outer function. What is inner function? This is inner function. If I want to call it, how you're going to call it? You are going to say simply first, this will call what? This is going to call the outer function. This is the outer function first. So this is what the outer function we are calling. Okay, let's see what is second. Okay. Okay. This is outer function first, second function, first function. Now you can understand clearly how exactly this is trying to show you the output. Okay. Looking at the output, we can understand how the inner function is working, how the outer function is working, and how we can just nested them uh, without any issues. Okay. But one thing you need to remember, if we need to define the inner function, then we need to call the inner function in the outer function. Okay. That's why I've written inner outer so that you can, okay, I repeat, if you need to, okay, if we defined, okay, if you defined inner function, if you define something like inner function, what is highlighted here, then we need to make sure call the inner function in the outer function. That's it, as simple as that, no confusion here. So we have seen how to call also, we got the output, very good. Now, okay, we have seen quite a few examples with the written statement. Now let's try to build whatever the knowledge we have, some kind of example so that we can understand, okay, in practicality, when you are writing any program for that matter, okay, when you're writing any program, how better you can utilize all these functions without repeating again and again. Okay, for that, what I'll do is I'll try to make a simple program again, which will demonstrate combination of using if conditions, using what you call definitions, defining a functions and everything. The function which I'm going to create now, okay, I'm going to create a function. So without using a defined function, I'm going to create the function. Is it really possible? Let's see. I want to create something called creating a simple calculator. Okay, I'm creating a calculator. Let's assume I want to create a calculator. In case of your first few examples, what happened? If it is a plus, it is always writing addition. If it is a multiplication, it is doing multiplication. If it is a subtraction, so we are creating a separate functions in order to perform your job. What if you can have a separate functions, okay, in order to create a function and which can really take over and give the result, and we can also use the loops here so that until it gives the right answer, then you cannot quit that program itself. Okay, so let's begin the program to understand this better. Okay, we have used the def. Let me use the def only so that we can have a very clear picture. I want to create a Monty underscore add is already there, so addition. Okay, Monty addition, just like that. For fun, I'm taking that name. You can take anything for that matter. I'm using two parameters, x comma y. Just try to sync each and every line what I'm writing. This function, what it does is, let me write at the top. This function, if you understand the first function, all the functions are same. Add two numbers. Okay, I know how to add the two numbers, very easy. Now return, again the same problem, colon, return x plus y. What I want to return x plus y. Now my first function is over. What I want to do is the second function. In the second function, I want to subtract two numbers. Because so far when I create first function, it's always doing the addition only. But here I want to do a calculator. What happens in the calculator? If you say 100 plus 100 plus 200, it will give you addition. If you say 100 minus 200, it will give a different value. So we want to create such kind of a calculator now. Let's try to see. This is function name is Monty addition. This is subtraction. Let's see. subtraction. Okay, we have two functions here, but it's not plus, right? So it is a minus. Okay, now we have two functions here. Now let me go for the third function. Now slowly see how the program is getting uh, complicated, though it looks like simple calculator. Now the next one is I want to do a multiplication. For that, what you will see is multiplication. This is only a command, guys, nothing to do with your program. And here I want to say multiplication. So multiplication symbol, we know what is a multiplication symbol. Yes, this is a multiplication. Okay, I'm done with three functions which I've created. Let's try to see how these functions can be. Okay, we have one more thing, right, which can divide. Let's try to do that as well. This function divides two numbers. If you understand this example, you can do anything in the function because it's covering all the aspects. What you'll do, we have to say divide, right? So one single division, it gives this. Let's say division. Okay, let's use the space. Okay, now we have four functions here, which is saying one is addition, one is subtraction, one is multiplication, one is division. Now, what's the magic you're going to do? I want to ask the user, can you please select what you want to do? You want to add, then whatever the numbers you are giving, two numbers you are providing or three numbers, I will do the addition. If you select subtraction, then I will subtract it. If you select multiplication, I'll multiply it. If you divide, if you want me to divide, I will divide it. So I'm giving an option to the end user now what you want to do. That is what happens in the calculator, right? It will ask you, do you want to divide? Then click on the divide. If you want to multiply, you click on the multiply. This is what happens. So now we have four functions. I want to print it out just like for the user identification. I want to say print. No, I want to say print. I want to say select the operation. Select the operation. Okay, I'm asking the user, can you select the operation? What is the operation? Addition, subtraction, multiplication. I'm leaving to the user. Select whatever you want. I can still do the operation for you. Okay. In the select, in the next one, I want to say, I want to give him the options, right? We need to provide the option. One stands for, let's say, addition. Okay. Two stands for, this is for the display message. This is the display message. Here, I want to say, select the option two. I can subtraction. Okay, the third one being you created four functions, so let's try to utilize the four functions here. You can avoid fourth one is third one is what? It's talking about a multiplication, and the fourth option is left with division. So when I run the program, what happens is the first message will pop up is select the operation. I need to select the operation either 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so far looks good. If I select 1, it will add the two numbers and give the output. If I select the 2, it will subtract. What if I'm selecting 5 then? It's invalid, right? So 5 is not there, 6 is not there. There's no such operation available in my calculator which I'm developing. So you need to handle that situation also. If he's selecting out of 4 options, it's well and good. But if he's selecting something out of the range, we need to ensure that it is oh, my spelling is wrong. Thanks for okay. This is a simple indication, guys. If it is not changing into color, I've written spelling wrong. So written, it should turn into green color as per this Jupyter notebook. Okay. So I'm asking 4 questions to the user. Select any operation so that I can do the job for you. But what if it's not giving the right input to the user? Okay, right input. That means if he's not giving the right input, you need to handle that as well. So that means what would be the learning? I learned a lot of things in the previous sessions. I used if condition. So better I may use if condition. If he's not selecting out of this 4, do something else. So that means I need to use the conditional structures. And also I want to put a question to the last, at the last. Once the user provides 2 numbers, he done the addition, it's over. I want to ask a question. Do you want to exit the calculator or you want to do some more calculations? I want to use that option also here. So that means you need to use again if condition. So if you want this to be repeated again and again, of course, we need to use what? Loops here. So I'm trying to use if conditions. I'm trying to use loops here. I'm also using the functionality called def. That is nothing but the function. Okay, so I'm not doing this calculation again and again. I just created this function for me. That's name of the function is Monty addition, Monty subtraction, something like that. Okay, now let's begin. The main job starts from here. Okay, first we need to use the loop here, but let me not use the loop, and we'll see what is the problem if you don't use the loop. It will not repeat again and again, but we want to repeat it. I'll put it as a comment now. I want to say option. Option is a variable which I created myself, equal to input, open the bracket, enter the option. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm asking the user which option you want. Okay, which option you want to select. Okay, which option you want. Either you want 1, either you want 2, either you want 3, either you want 4. So I'm asking the user, please enter only these 4 options. You can ask the whatever the fashion you want, like please enter option 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I want to check if this option really falls under the category, because we already defined 4 functions, right? And he's asked he has to select one of the options. So here I need to start with what? If condition. If condition means if it is 1, then add it. If it is 2, subtract it. If it is 3, multiply it. If it is 4, it is not subtraction, it is division, right? Okay, so then you divide it. That is what the option I'm giving to him. So he has to select the option. The end user has to select the option or the choice. Okay, now if option in operator we have used, if it is between 1, let me say 1, this is 2, oh, this is 3, in a 4. If the option is in between these 4, okay, we need to close this, right? Of course. If it is between these 4, then we need to start checking it, right? Like we need to ask the question also. We need to ask the 2 numbers which we haven't asked. So let's say num1 equal to input enter your first number, because we want to do the calculation. So obviously the end user has to enter some values. So I'm asking the enter the first number. I'm taking one more variable which name is 2, num2. I cannot give the same. Enter your second number. But will it work? The problem is with the input function, which takes the input from the user, which will always be what? A text type. That means by default it takes as a text file. So either you convert it to integer, either you convert into a numeric, that is float. So let's try to use the float. We have not used float. FLOAT float. Okay, I'm converting that number. If you don't convert, it will not understand as a number numeric one. Float. Okay. Now the function is the option is a variable which is stored the option what the user is selected, either 1, 2, 3, 4. And after that, I'm asking a question, can you please provide the 2 numbers? I provided the 2 numbers also. Now, what exactly you need to do? I want to use one more if condition because I know how to use the nested if conditions, right? So what I want to do here, I want to use if option double equal to, it's not equal to, double equal to 1. Okay, if the option is 1, then what you want to do? Then you want to print something called, let's print the whole message. Okay, num1. Okay, num1. You want to say plus. Okay, then you want to say num2, comma. I'm just trying to print out everything. Your number, for example, if the user is entering 100 and 200, 100 plus 200 equal to how much? That is what the message I want to print here, instead of just giving the output. If I get the output 300, I don't know whether it's added or subtracted, I don't know. So I want to give the clear message to the end user. So I want to say add what? Add is a function, right? What is the add function you have created? The add function is your Monty addition. Okay, that is your function name which you have created by yourself. What are the function you have created? You need to provide here. That is function that what you want to add, that you want to add 2 things. That is your num1, comma, num2. That's it. Very simple. Now, if you understand this logic, how it is, let me just bring on to this space. Okay. If you understand this logic, see, slowly the program is becoming complicated, but it's quite easy to understand. First, you are checking the option, then you're asking 2 numbers to add. I don't know whether to add or what. It depends upon the user, right? So after that, I'm taking two numbers. If that number is equal to one, if the option is one, option one is what? Addition. Option if he has entered two. So I've not mentioned, of course, I have to mention that. So what I can do is, instead of using one more if condition, I can go for an else part, right? So let me copy this and say enter. Now I need to start with else part. Else part means here it is called as elif. Elif, elif option, if it is 2, then what you want to do? You don't want to do plus, you want to do minus. And here it is not addition. Here the function name is your subtraction. Is it subtraction? What you've written? Subtraction. Let me copy and paste, because cases and your okay, subtraction. Else if the option is 2, then make it as a subtraction. Then the next one, again I have a LC part. Why? Because we have a 4 options, right? So I have the third option. The third option is what is the third option is all about? Like multiplication. So I need to say multiplied. Within double quotes, whatever you give, it means to print as is. So I'm trying to print your number one is this multiplied by this number, then you are getting this. That is what I'm trying to tell to the end user. So your multiplication function is this. You need to give the same function what you provided. Otherwise, it will subtract, which we don't want. Okay. After that, we have one more option. What is the fourth option we have? That is, we want to make it as elif. If it is a fourth option, if the user is selecting, then you try to better make it as division. Okay. And my division function name is Monty division. Try to take a simple function names. It's making complicated. Monty underscore. That's it. Okay. Now I'm in a position to add. I'm in a position to subtract. I'm in a position to multiply. I'm in a position to division also. But what if the user is not giving what the information is asked? For example, let me write the comment as a comment part. Check if the user wants another calculation. Okay. He's done with the subtraction. So he wants to do another calculation. He's done with addition. He wants to do one more calculation. So let's not leave the program. Let's continue the program, because once you pick up the calculator, you'll do one calculation. Again, you'll clear it. And again, you'll do the one more calculation, right? So when you will keep doing that calculation until you are happy with the calculation, you will sit back and relax. That's what we want to do here. Another calculation, how you want to do calculation. So that means here comes the picture of using your loop. So that means I have to use the loop, otherwise it will not repeat the job again and again. So what I want to do is here, while true, true, can I write in lowercase? No, true T uppercase U, and it should turn into a color. While true, that means what are the 4 options? You should keep on doing the calculation for you. If it is out of 4, no, that's not my job, right? So out of 4 option, if the user says yes, I want to continue, then you need to keep the loop again and again. So that is what we are trying to do here. So what happens is here, if the we are trying to check if the user wants to do another calculation. So whatever you're using a loops here. Okay, you used at the top, that is while true. Now I want to take one more variable called next calculation. Okay, just like that. Next calculation equal to input. Again, I want to ask the question. Okay, because he wants to do one more calculation. So let's say let's do next calculation. Okay, I want to ask yes or no. I want to ask a question. Do you want to do the next calculation? Yes or no? Okay. I want to ask the user, if you are yes, it will repeat the calculation. If no, it will come out of the application. I mean, the program what you have written. So here what I need to say is, if he says yes, it will continue. If he says no, then what you need to do? You have to break it, right? So if you want to break it, I need to write something here. If next calculation, whatever the calculation you're doing, whatever the calculation you're doing, I'm putting a condition here. If next calculation double equal to 0, or simply say no. For example, the user is saying no, I don't want to do any calculation. Then what you want to do? You want to break it. You learned in the previous session how to use a break statement. Last but not the least, else part plays a very important role. That is print invalid input, because The user either selected 1, 2, or 3, or you provided something else. So I want to say invalid input. This is not a valid input. All right, we end up writing so many lines here, but understanding this program is quite easy. Let's try to begin with the first line again. Let me explain only the first function because rest of the functions are same. I'm creating a function called Monty addition with the parameters called 2 x comma y, which stands for returns xy. Okay, Monty addition will return that's x plus y. In the same fashion, we have taken 4 parameter. And this print statement is my wish because I want to show the options to the user. That's why I've written. Otherwise, you can write anything there. So I'm using a while because I want to keep repeating this loop until he wants to stop that calculation part. Okay, until he wants to stop the calculation part. Until then, I want to keep repeating. So first, I'm asking what is your option? If that option existing between this, I mean, these two numbers anyway we are going to use for the calculation. But if the option is existing in any of the case, like 1, then addition, 2, subtraction. But how the user knows 1 stands for addition, because that's what you are giving here. 1 stands for addition. This is what the message you are passing to the user. This is a trick here. If the next calculation, I just created just like that a variable and input, let's do a next calculation. If the user says yes, it will repeat the function again. If say no's, it will break. It will break the, I mean, it will break. That means it will stop the calculation. Now let's try to see how this works. Once I say enter, while true. What is the problem with the while true here? Invalid syntax. While true is correct only. Oh yeah. So we used a while, that is uppercase I used. You can see here, while true, colon, enter, this should come here, right? While I used a W as uppercase, which is wrong. So invalid syntax at print 1. What is that error here? So let's try to deep dive. Num1 is nothing but this plus num2. Then we are using, oh, there's a great mistake here. See, we need to use a comma separator, otherwise it will not understand, right? It will think that both are same. So I need to use for every parameter, like I used a num1, which is 100, let's assume that I'm dividing, nothing but I'm giving as a printing of the statement num2 equal to this. Okay, I'm fine. Now let me run this. Once I say enter, it should ask me 4 questions. Please enter the option. But what option should I enter? I don't know what are the options mean. That's why I'm displaying all the messages for you here. Select the operation. 1 stands for addition, 2 stands for subtraction. So let me understand 2 means. 2 means what? Once I say enter, it will ask you enter the option again. Why? 2, 3. Oh man, something happened here. Else part is going clearly. I can see, and break is also breaking. Can somebody find out what's the mistake here? Functions are clear. It is while true. While true, the option will keep repeating as many times you want. This is taking input here. This is taking from the input, checking the option. Checking the option. Once you say the tab is also correct. Option equal to 1. Then what you want to do? That is colon 2, 3, 4 is also correct. But why it is repeating so many times? Oh, this is you're asking a question whether it's yes or no. Then you are saying break. After break, okay, let me separate this first. This is coming to break. This is coming to else part. This is coming to the finally invalid input, but it should work. What is going wrong here? Okay, let me restart my kernel again. It's not working. Restart clear outputs. There are a lot of things to learn here, how to break certain things, how to continue something, how to use conditional structures, how to use the loops, but it's not working. Let me, 10 plus 10 is working. Show me the output. Yeah, it's working. Just say enter, select the option. I'm saying so my option is 3. Enter the option. Why it is repeating? Oops. No, this is not what I wanted. It should immediately prompt me what are the two numbers you want to provide. Somebody, sir, use else instead of last else if. That should not be a problem actually. You can use else or doesn't matter. That shouldn't be a problem because that's not a problem. Elif. This is my favorite topic. Why it's not working? Restart. Hold on for a minute. Yeah, I got it. So 10 plus 10 is 20 is giving me the output. Somewhere indentation issue should be there. Let me cross check again. While writing the comments, you have written the def function, def function. This is your def function. After that, the second def. After that, your third def. After that, fourth def, which is quite clear till here. Then you're using print options to ask the user to select. Then you're going for while. If it is true, then only you choice as inputs. Indentation issue should be there. Okay, this is asking the user if my choice is 1, then do this. My option is 2, then do this. The if is also coming in the same line. Break is also coming in the same line. Okay, I said 2. The indentation issue actually. Okay, so here the indentation issue. This if and this if was not in calling in the same one. So I said enter my first number is 100. It should ask me 200. I mean second number. When I say enter, it is telling me your 100 and 200 is 100.0. Of course, why I used a float there. Float means it will take the decimal. It's asking me, do you want to continue this calculation? Let's do next calculation. If I say S, it will ask me the same question again. Select the option. Okay, I said 2. Then asking me first number, asking me the second number. It should give me the answer as this is my output. Let's do the next calculation. No, I'm tired, so I want to say S. It's asking me 3, 100 number, 300 number. It's giving me. Let's do the next calculation. Yes or no? If I say yes, it will continue. Why it is continuing? That is what you need to understand. Our program is not coming out. It's still working. Keep on working because of your while true. While the condition becomes true. So let's try to give no this time and see what happens. Now, what is the advantage of giving no here? Because I want to come out of the program. That is what I've read. If it is equals to no, then break it. Then stop the program then itself. Let's try to say no and say enter. Now, that's it. Now you said no, I came out of the program. It's not working anymore. But if I say invalid input, let's try to see that example as well. Now it's asking me the question. I said 6. Is 6 existing? No, I should get a response saying that no, invalid input. Why it's not getting invalid input? It's again your if condition started here. Okay, this else part is showing here. Again, indentation issue here. See how important role the indentation is playing. Let's do a calculation. If I say no, I'll come out of the loop. Yes. If I say 6, I'll check this one because the indentation issue again. Guys, are we able to understand what we are doing here? Let me. All right, guys, let me just recap what we have understood. There's a Monty addition is a function which is trying to add two numbers. Monty subtraction is a function which will subtract two numbers. Likewise, we have a multiplication and we have a division. We have seen this is just indication to the user what one stands for, two stands for, three. One. We are just asking a question so that you can understand what option to be selected. And we are using a while true here, while true, nothing but while loop we are using to, in order to repeat this asking question again and again, because we want to use the calculator again and again. Because how we can repeat again and again, because we are using, do you want to continue this calculation? If you says yes, it will continue. If you says no, it will break the condition there itself. And the last part, what it is doing, which is a part of the first function, which is a part of the function. If the number what you have entered is out of scope, okay, what is out of scope here? 1, 2, 3, 4. If it is out of scope, then it will try to say invalid number provided or whatever. Invalid number. Okay, just try to explore this example because it's a combination of all those whatever you learned in the last week sessions, that is if conditions, loops, and as well as today what you learned is functions. That's all for today, and we'll see the next part of the functions, because we have a types of functions also which we need to be familiarized if you want to be the master of these functions. Okay, see you tomorrow with the same time. Thank you so much, guys.